All right, everyone. I was muted there for a second. I already started the recording because we are at 12:01. Welcome to our last class, our last encounter for now. I'm excited about today and what we're going to create on this call. And I'm also excited to essentially graduate you today. Yay! So let's start with a quick recap from last week. So last week we covered the fifth principle, which is community. And we talked about the distinction between a community that comes from love versus a community that comes from fear, and how that context will either promote or hinder personal transformation. We touched upon that transformation only really happens in relationships. There was an optional homework this week, which was to journal about what this course has created in your life over the last few weeks and include how it may have had an effect in people's lives. And then we had, come to this class with thoughts on how this work could be designed in supporting you moving forward. And we'll talk a little bit about what's next at the end of this call. And then the mentalism homework was to, as you participate in the world, notice if you're surrounded by fear consciousness or love consciousness as it relates to community and our discussions. So I would love to start by actually just hearing a little bit from you guys. Did you notice if you were participating in an environment that was either a community or a context of fear versus a community context of love? And what did you notice? Did something open up for you? Were you able to interact differently? And then, did you just forget and get busy? And if so, share about that. We're going to share about what we can put in to continue this work and what you've created from this course a little bit later. So right now, let's just share a little bit what you noticed around the distinction of community and whether fear-based or love-based. Let's see if we can get a couple of hands up here, or I will call on you. And for those that don't have videos, if you can have video, it'd be great because we'd love to see you. Unless you're driving or doing something that would be unsafe, or you have a super loud or crazy background. But we also had a bonus call this past week that was really amazing in talking about different stuff, current events, and what's going on and how we can apply this work. And more importantly, what are some of the tools that we can put in or a tool specifically we were talking about that we could put in the moments that we're triggered or we would normally react, and how can we sort of stop and observe and choose differently. So I see Nathalie has her hand up, so let's go for it.
So I noticed something happened last week. It has to do with I was aware that I was reacting with fear, and I caught it, and then I was able to maybe like an hour later, maybe even a little less an hour later, I processed it mentally. Actually, I want to say the example because I don't want to be vague. So I have almost a 2-year-old, and I have a helper that comes in once a week. And the week before I noticed she kind of coughed a bit and showed a few symptoms, and it made me feel nervous. And I saw some cough drops in her purse, and I was surprised that she didn't mention anything because we have an agreement that if one of us has symptoms, any kind of symptoms, that we would speak to another, because we would both rather not, go to work than just go and possibly risk. So I didn't say anything, but I was thinking about making up an excuse for her not to come, and I couldn't, whatever. But I ended up telling her, and then I had a sore throat, and I was like, what's going on? And so I told her, I have a sore throat. I'm going to leave it up in your hands, like if you want to come or not. And she ended up coming. And then I saw that I heard her talk and she was congested, and I didn't say anything. But I know the part that I'm noticing my awareness was I was uncomfortable. I was getting upset. I was feeling almost a little resentful. And took my 2-year-old for a walk outside to play like I always do. And I was thinking about it, and I'm like, I noticed this feeling. I recognize, and I was like, I'm uncomfortable. And I was like, why you're uncomfortable is because you're not being honest with yourself and with her. Like, why am I not talking to her about it instead of talking about it to myself, going around in my head, getting pissed off, but she doesn't even know what's going on. And so when I got back, I was like, I'm going to say something. And so I did talk to her, and I was like, look, like, I'm a little uncomfortable, and I'm uncomfortable in my own home. And this is why. And I talked to her, and I had an open dialogue, like, respectfully. And then she told me that, the congestion is from a surgery she had in the back of her neck that kind of, when she kind of picks something up, it kind of causes saliva to come down. So it had nothing to do with, either COVID or having a cold or anything. It had something to do with a prior surgery. And I felt immediately better after talking to her. And I realized, I'm like, the reason why I was uncomfortable was because I wasn't being like myself. Like, why am I being scared? And I was coming from a place of fear, like not confronting the situation and talking about it. And it was something so silly and insignificant, but I did notice that. And I'm glad I was able to just kind of be myself. And then that made me recognize the patterns, like in the past, where I'm uncomfortable or feeling upset and all of these negative emotions, and it's because I'm not being myself. And the only one I have permission to be myself. Like, no one's stopping me, so I can just whatever. That's just what I noticed.
You know what? Thank you for sharing that, because that is actually so not a small trivial thing if you really think about it. And I think you also know that, because you literally had the awareness to watch yourself and then be able to choose a response that would serve you and the total situation better. Like watching, okay, oh, wow, I'm coming from fear right now. This is normally I would just kind of continue with my assumptions, and that ends up creating a certain result, right? Most likely a result that is negative on you because the other person's not even involved in it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so these tools and these awareness of, where are we coming from and stopping and looking are really like the basis for living life from like this other level of emotional intelligence. And you suddenly become aware and to have the tools to set up your life in a way that it's going to become effortless. So the reason the reason I have this course even is exactly like you just said something that is the reason why I even have this course. For someone in that situation to be able to choose powerfully, So I really appreciate you sharing that. Thank you. And let's go to Janine.
Good afternoon. Happy Monday, everybody. So I feel like obviously, like for the last 8 weeks, this course has been running like in the background of my life. And simultaneously, like I'm part of this women's group, and we meet on Monday mornings, have like a quick meet and check in. And I'm also doing this kind of like self-love work all at the same time. And it's crazy how it all comes together. But the theme in my group this morning was ownership. And I kind of spoke about this class, Source Movement, that I'm taking, and how like doing this work, I've recognized how, I can take ownership of my own life, and how, what shows up in my life is what I create. And I understand it in a class, setting, and it all makes sense. And it's kind of like, when the teacher says something and you're like, oh yeah, I knew that, like it all just makes sense until you see it play out in your life. So this week I was having a conversation with someone, and they were talking about conspiracy theories and like just all this crazy information. Someone I just met, they were throwing at me. And I was just listening and trying to be polite and nice. And then I just realized this is like really sucking my energy. And this is not like what I want to let in to my world. And I just kind of graciously excused myself. And I was like, I'll get back to you. So I feel like I'm a slow processor. So it takes me a while to like put, you know, to see like from recognition to like action. But I feel like I've gotten better in catching things in the moment, you know, as opposed to just letting it all play out, you know. So I think once that becomes like, this class has helped me to kind of turn it into somewhat of a practice where, you know, I can take ownership. I would be the first one to tell you, oh no, I'm not in victim. But there was a lot of also other situations that came up where I could see like old childhood, like someone stood me up and I happened to be like doing some self-love work having to do with like resentment and people letting you down and kind of that expectation. And then it showed up where this person today, or, you know, last week, did the same thing. And I brought me back to that like 7-year-old, 8-year-old's resentment. So yeah, it's just, I forgot where I was going with that, but
No, I mean,
it's
yeah.
just, it keeps playing. It keeps playing in my life. So
Yeah, and I again, like it has me like I realized through doing this course, because I mean I did it a while ago, but doing it again now with, especially with you know, some of the people that are on this call, and a lot of you that have not, you know, had the opportunity to do part one of the gratitude training, I'm seeing that having it over time like this ends up almost being more experiential than when you cram it into 4 days in the training room,
right.
because you have time to let the distinctions and the work kind of work in the background and apply it in your life, and then come back, you know. And so I'm super excited about COVID happening just for a second there, you know, and what's possible moving forward, you know. So
Right.
thank
Yes, but I'm grateful for the work. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right, Andrea.
Okay, sorry. So I just was thinking about how I woke up. It's something that happened to me this morning is, I mean, after being cooped up for 10 days because myself and everyone in my family has coronavirus, you're just like over it. By 2 weeks, I've been cooped up in an apartment with a 5-year-old boy who is bouncing off the walls. And and I grew up in, I don't know, let's see, I was trying to piece together how fear and anger, because I guess everything really comes down to fear, but the way it manifested in my family was like anger. Like nobody hit, there was no like violence. It was, well, it was like, it was just loud. There was a lot of screaming. And so that's always been like, unfortunately, like how it came out with me. So when I was frustrated or when I was upset, you know, you always kind of let it out by getting loud. And this morning, it was like I just woke up on the wrong side of the bed. I haven't slept well in days. Obviously, like everyone's sick, everyone's moody. And I could see myself with awareness being like, here I am. I'm about to have a shit fit. I can see it. I can see my past. I can keep it to myself. I can try and work through it, or it's like drugs. It's like, you know, it's bad and you're just going to do it anyway because it's too hard not to sometimes. And there I was in my kitchen where like the plate broke, the coffee spilled all over the floor. I hadn't even had the coffee. That was bad. And I was like, here is everything blowing up in my own little world to me. And of course I'm thinking things can be a lot worse. I'm not starving on the side of the road, you know, I'm not like this or that. And I'm thinking of like, how can I make myself not go down this horrible tunnel? I'm about to go down. I'm about to do everything that I usually do. And I kind of did in a way. It wasn't a full-blown hysteria, so I'll give myself a pat on the back for that. It wasn't like the hysteria I would have gotten when I was the child, like sitting around watching my mom freak out. But like I had like a snap. I snapped, and I do go back and apologize to my son when I snap at him when it's not his fault. I snapped, And then I went to my room and I like cried. And I was like, okay, well, I could still cry. Like I can feel like it's just a way of me getting it out. But I'm like, okay, what else can I do besides being like in that moment where you're like, I'm gonna freaking scream. I can't go and be like, oh, I'm gonna go do yoga. Like this is not
Right.
the time. So I'm like, you know, and I still like I know I did well, but it's still there.
Well, I mean, you actually did really well because you had the awareness, right? And this, and we spoke about this a little bit. I don't know if it was on the last call or if it was on our bonus call, but about how sometimes the awareness makes it worse because you're aware that you shouldn't, and then you can't control it, and you go for it anyway, right?
Yes.
But
And then you punish yourself.
right. But here's the thing: awareness is the first step. So, like, without awareness, you wouldn't even have a choice. So at least you now know you have a choice, even though it feels like you're not having a choice because you're in reactive mode. Okay. That is going to be a practice, and the awareness is going to help you kind of stop, slow down, and start choosing differently. And I mean, one of the most important things in having that awareness and not being able to act on the awareness is to consistently forgive yourself and then fess up, which you said you do apologize, you do clean up, because that's what's going to have the relationship still, and all the relationships in your life still intact, right? It's like,
Yeah.
that, you know, that's not who I want to be. Now you might even be able to communicate the awareness to them prior to you going there, being like, listen guys, I'm aware, you know, that I shouldn't go here right now, but I'm at a point where I'm tired, and I'm not going to be able to control it. So I'm like warning you that I might, you know, go there. And
Yeah.
even in saying that could actually have you step back a little bit.
Yeah, that's true.
So you know what, like, acknowledge yourself for having the awareness, for seeing it, and then acknowledge the fact that where you're at is that you can still have that reaction overtake your response. And okay, those are your results, so let's keep doing some work, instead of it like, damn it, I know better, you know. Because
Yeah.
if you knew better, and if you could do better, you would have done better, quote unquote. So you're exactly where you're supposed to be, and then just love yourself for that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, so um, now I'm gonna just do a little quick recap of the whole course, just like very quick, just so that, you know, we can kind of anchor some of the distinctions as you move forward in your life after this. So in the first session, you know, we talked about the law of mentalism, and that everything is mind, and that everything is created from thoughts. We talked a little bit about the first of the 7 universal laws that says that it's all mind. Okay. And then we went into what is, you know, your most effective self, and really starting to be willing. And so even though we did that in our first session, now you can come back and go, okay, now I have some more tools, like what is my most effective self, and how do I want to show up in the world. We talked about vision and getting connected to our vision, which also, you know, that was our second class. And now we're on 8, you know, 8 weeks later, and really start going, oh, have my vision changed? Like, what do I really want now? Because things might have occurred for you during this 8-week period. So to stay connected to that. And you have a vision worksheet that you can work out of. We also talked about, then we went into the principles of source movement, which is, you know, we talked about integrity. I'm going to admit some people here. We talked about integrity, that how we're really only one thought away from being in integrity. And usually it's a thought about maybe our own unworthiness, or, you know, just a thought that we have, I'm always late. And then that sort of makes us right about it. And then now we're always late. We looked at a because and tool, where you can uncollapse your stories that you have with facts that happen, so that you can deal with them individually. So for instance, you know, I was abused by my father, and I can't hold a relationship today, and take sort of uncollapse those with the and, so that you can just work on the now and just know that this happened. Yes, that was then, this is, and this is now, and now what? We went through responsibility, the second principle, which essentially is that I create everything, and then responding to life as if I create everything. So whether it's true or not, it's just a stance to take. It's just an opportunity to view your life and like as your movie that you're directing, and in doing so, you actually have more power to create transformation within that space. If you operate as a victim and not responsible or accountable for everything that happens in your life, you end up having life happening to you rather than for you. We talked about gratitude. We went through the different, comparative gratitude versus a state of gratitude, which is more that state, that pure state of appreciation, or declarative gratitude, where you declare that something is already here and you're grateful for it, but it's really something that you're going for in your vision. Service, we talked about service, the fourth principle, and how the survival context versus the creative context sort of has you operate when you are in service. Are you being in service just because out of fear, or out of being in control, or being right, or are you actually coming from courage and authenticity as you contribute to your surroundings? We also last week was community, and just really looking at the different context of community, love versus fear, and what is the difference, and how do you create an environment, a context that comes from love and peace, versus operating in this fear-based society that I think all kind of feel like we're part of today. And so I would love to hear a little bit from you guys. One is what this course has created for you in your life over the last 8 weeks, and how it may have affected you and other people around you. And then also, if you have some thoughts on, like what would be really great moving forward, so that I can continue being in the conversation and not kind of falling back to just what we call in the training, the drift, where you're just kind of in the hamster wheel and the same thing keeps happening again and again. So if you guys want to share a little bit, what have you created as value in this course for you and others, or thoughts on what you would think would support you moving forward as far as staying in the conversation and even learning more. So I'm going to leave the floor open. And if you want to raise your hand, if you can, if not, just unmute and start talking. And I wish I could play that.
I could share a real quick thing.
Excellent.
I don't think it hasn't been earth-shattering for me, but what I've found that this discussions and the take-home and the homework and stuff has refocused me on so many different areas that have been impacted with this lack of word, with this lack of discipline, with this lack of vision and understanding for how my not holding my word has impacted things. And how many things I haven't accomplished or done to a point of joy because somewhere along the line it all got derailed. And I think the final piece that fell into place was just this past week, because I was meeting with a nutritionist, and I just said, I just seem to be so undisciplined, and I'm doing all of these things, I'm just so wishy-washy in a whole lot of things. And she said, that's something that she's hearing a lot because of the COVID thing, that it is actually an attitude that is beginning to come bigger, because people are at home, they don't have the disciplines that used to have them come to the office, or go to games for their kids or things like that, because all this stuff is done. So it just kind of made me realize how important staying in your word is, whether it's to maintain a relationship, whether it's to maintain your goals with yourself or your promises to yourself, your behavior, your day-to-day attitude, how proud I used to feel, or not necessarily proud, but pleased with myself when I delivered, and I've been lacking that. So just for me, it's just been an awareness.
It's actually so important, because our word, when we come from responsibility with our word, meaning like it's our word. So whether it is, because what you said is, or what the woman that you work with said was, when we have the structures, we sort of, oh, well, I got to go to work, or I'm taking my kids to the game. And it's easy to kind of just fall into being your word, but it's actually coming from a survival context of, it's just kind of created for you. And then we were all left with like having to really be our word on our own now. And that's where, if we can start being our word on our own and then come back to the structure of whether it's going to work or taking our kids, it now becomes a privilege, because we're like keeping our word rather than doing something for someone else. Because then we move from being a victim to it to, oh wow, I'm a responsible human being. I've made a commitment to go to work, and this is me choosing to go to work every day, instead of like I have to go to work. So I think it's a really cool awareness that you shared. So thank you, Judy. Okay, who's next?
I'll share.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. I'm sorry I wasn't here last week. I was celebrating Yom Kippur, the holiday of forgiveness, so forgive me. For me, I just want to acknowledge Joe for just being such a thought leader and being so inspirational. And BC, before COVID, I came into contact with Joe's programs, Gratitude Training Part 1 and Part 2. And as somebody who's worked with teenagers for the last decade, at 27, the amount of personal growth that I got, I was inspired to take those teachings along with my own and develop my own program during COVID for teenagers. And so for me, coming every week, I not only grow as a person, but I grow professionally. And, sometimes we have absolutely no idea how many people we impact and we inspire just by, by being authentic. And nothing brings more joy to my heart than when I share some of Joe's teachings and the teens are like, I never thought about that. I'm like, me neither, till 6 months ago. Let's go. So I think for me, that sense of community and being able to share, it's kind of like, in grade school, if you ever tutor somebody in a topic, you yourself slowly become more of an expert at it. So thank you, Joe. And I just want to empower all of you guys that you all have that same power, and sharing that with anybody, whether it's the barista or your cousin or your colleague. So with that, I am complete.
Awesome. Sounds like a creative peacemaker to me.
I have my contract on the wall.
Awesome. Cool. Yay. All right. Thank you so much, Reina. Now, who's next? Who wants to share? And
I want to
go for it.
I'm Joycelyn, and I just want to tell Joe thank you for enlightening me that we are living into whatever we're telling ourselves. So when we have a belief that we're not smart enough, we're not good enough, we are being our integrity. So when we change that internal voice to I am smart, I am powerful, then we are living into the integrity when we're being honest to that. So thank you for helping me change that internal dialogue.
Awesome. That's a good takeaway. Thank you so much. All right, anyone else? Before we get ready to graduate, you guys.
I want to say something. I think this course has brought a lot of awareness for me, and also it's made me feel a lot more better about myself, hearing other people with their struggles. And like sometimes in these conversations we've had on these weekly calls, someone would talk about something that I could relate to, and like they're having the same issue with their, you know, a family member or a mother-in-law. And even hearing you, Joe, like talk about like even you had an issue or a conflict with your brother, made me feel like, oh, okay, so like not, you know, it's like I know that everyone has problems, but like to hear people on a weekly basis say it made me feel like, almost made me feel better about myself, because I was like, okay, I'm not the only one, which, you know, in theory, but sometimes like just hearing it, it made me feel a little bit more relieved, and also gave me like a couple new ways to approach situations, like also new tools. So I want to say thank you to that.
Awesome. Yeah, you know, the tools and the learning doesn't make your problems go away. They just make you handle them differently. So that's the goal. Irina, I see you have your hand up, and then Alpha. Let's see, is Irina still here? Irina, did you have your hand up?
Oh,
There you
yes.
go.
Hi.
There you
Yes,
go.
hi. I also want to thank you very much for all the teachings, all the classes. I got a lot out of it, and not only for my personal development, but also for my business, my developing business as well. It's like I'm starting, like I'm a coach, and I'm like in the beginning, but I'm definitely using all your teachings. And I thank you so much for introducing me to Abraham Hicks, because it's been my favorite since. So thank you for everything.
Awesome. Thank you, Irina. Let's go to Alpha.
Hi, thank you. My name is Alpha, and I want to thank you, Joe, for, there's a couple things. One is, you know, being unable to go to gratitude. I was signed up, and then COVID happened, and I was very leery or worried or nervous about it, because I really didn't know a lot about gratitude or you. So this format has helped me understand you and what it is that that you stand for and are bringing to the world. And so that excites me for what's next in terms of gratitude. Also, it's really reconnected me to a lot of things that I was very, very blessed to learn early in my life. I lived in a yoga ashram and was going to become a renunciate at a yoga ashram at one point in my life. And so these teachings are very familiar on certain levels, and you've taken them a little bit deeper or reconnected me to them in a new and different way. And my group, I loved getting to know my group. So thank you for having us have them. There are some really strong and powerful, beautiful women that are part of that group. And I'm sure that's true for everybody's group. So I just want to thank you. And really everybody who is shared in this course, I'm very grateful to as well. So blessing.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Let's go to Rock, and then we're gonna move forward here a little bit.
Good afternoon, everybody. So I just got back from deployment, and I can say that it has supported me these 8 weeks with just supporting other states. And it's what everybody else is bringing, is the awareness piece of it, and recognizing that when I show up in such a way, that's what I attract. So it's like a ripple effect, that when I show up, it's creativity, and I inspire people. And then that week of gratitude was that one was the hit. That week was the hit for me. And then after that, it was like the service, everything was coming together, especially last week with community, me just coming back to New York City. I had to go to California, and in the midst of like, it was so much going on that I stopped and I was like, right now I get to like give this token to somebody. And because I'm showing up this way, everybody's going to calm down. And that was exactly what happened in our stand-up call. It was as if it was you, Joe, like standing there in front of everybody and saying, today we're going to be in gratitude. And I started crying. I was like, you know what? This is it. These were the 8 weeks that I was looking for, and I seeked it and I have it. And thank you for my femme source, all the ladies that are in my group. They're actually on the call, and I thank all of them. Thank you, Joe, for this. And it's gonna move forward. It's a moving forward piece, because I have the book and I actually shared the book with somebody else. So your book is actually in Utah right now, the one that I bought. So it's in Utah. So it's like a domino effect that it's out of gratitude, right? And thank you very much for the call.
Awesome, Rock. Thank you. Thank you. I
You're very welcome.
appreciate that. So, so as you emerge as a creative peacemaker, you naturally sort of step into leadership, because the way that we look at leadership is to create a context of love. So lead, love, engage, acknowledge, and declare. So you create a context of love. You are engaging in your life, you know, instead of being resigned to it. Acknowledging. So some of you acknowledge the group or your small group, or thankfully you acknowledge me too, and acknowledging yourself, right? And then declare is really starting to declare to have your vision come true, declaring constantly in your life. Because if we don't declare things, we're not going to transform ourselves to fit into that declaration. We're just going to be the same, thinking we want something, but really declaring into stuff and being committed about it is what's going to have that. That's what leadership is. So we've spent these 8 weeks about, you know, choosing from a love consciousness and engaging ourselves in the group and others in our lives from that space. So I would love to take, just real quick, I just want you to know that I have something at 1 o'clock. So we're gonna like get off the call probably 2 minutes to 1. So I wanted to spend a couple of maybe 5 minutes or so in having you have an opportunity to acknowledge a certain person in the group, and it can't be me. So I already got my fill, right? But if there's someone that has made a significant difference for you during these 8 weeks, whether it's by them, you know, daring to share, or they said something that you felt that you related to. And so I would love to hear from maybe a couple of you acknowledging someone else that's on the call. And if they're not on the call and it's someone, you can still acknowledge them, because we can make sure that they watch the recording.
Yeah, I want to share something.
Yes, go for it.
Is that okay?
Yes.
Because I want to get a chance to just express that. I was waiting to hear everyone out, but I appreciate everyone who just spoke up so much. Reggie was my first one, really, because he's like so awake and so willing to share and very insightful, and really is really touching, Reggie. So you are really an inspiration. And I also want to say, Nathalie, to be so, I feel you, like she's so vulnerable, so willing to be vulnerable. And it really touches me and it makes me want to share, but I feel like I'm always holding back. I don't want to steal the show. I'd rather listen into other people than what I have to say is just really acknowledgements. And today, Andrea shared so beautifully as well, like being willing to be vulnerable and trust the community to help you get better so we can all be the best version of ourselves. And I'm sorry, Joe, but I have to mention you as well. I'm really sorry, but I want to say this, that the way I personally learn is by good examples. And you've been such a compassionate listener, so full of love. And for me, like I just watched Joe listening to everyone, how attentive she is and listens in, how compassionate it is. And I am practicing this a lot as well, just listening, hearing the other person and feeling them and just allowing them to speak their whatever they want to share, and be very active listening and not already wanting to answer or think about myself, but really listen to the other person. Yeah, and Joe, you've been really sweet and loving and all those good things that are a good example. And that is really what moved me. All the good examples in this group. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ingrid. Beautiful, beautiful acknowledgement. So anyone else?
Well, I'll just say real quick, there were a couple of classes ago, and I wish I could say I remember what it was, but Ingrid, I remember you saying something at the very end of the class and me thinking, oh my God, she just hit it. She hit it on the nail. And I was like telling Anna, like, that's it. You know, Anna's my friend here, who of course I have to thank for in telling me about this class. But I was like, I just feel like I wish you would also have spoken up, because I know that there's something inside of you, Ingrid, that I'm dying to hear more about, and I can feel it. But thank you for what you said. And of course, Joe, we have to stay quiet, but you're amazing.
Thank you.
I wanted to also say that about what works in the group is that, like, everyone shares their thing, but if Joe wasn't there, you're like the moderator. You're like, I feel like you give really good advice, then you hear in, and then it's like a therapist or like a leader. So this is why it works, having someone who knows and listens from a different place to help. And this is what works, I think. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Does anyone else have anything? Or are you guys ready to be graduated?
Yes, I want to take this time to thank all of the ladies that were in my group. Alpha, Ingrid, Janice, Carla, Andrea. I think I'm missing one. But I would like to take this time to say thank you. Despite the fact that I couldn't get on the Zoom calls, but I was always there energetically. You all brought inspiration to me while I was doing my service. You all brought me in, like, your energy. I felt it, the healing piece of it, that you all connected with the movies. I watched it with my volunteers, and we all had a dialect. And then when I would go to the WhatsApp feed, like, literally whatever I was saying to a volunteer or to a client, it was already said inside of the feed. And I'm like, this is awesome. This is awesome. This is really source moving. It's like the source is moving whatever conversations that we're having. So I thank you all. I'm in total gratefulness for having you all present in my life, especially these 8 weeks, from everything that has happened with the pandemic, and especially in this time of need, that just, even if I'm here in New York City, in California, wherever I may be, the energy of a conversation that I am a part of, it shows up in love and in gratitude. So thank you very much for having me in your group. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Rock.
This is Judy. I just wanted to recognize Raina Rose from our group. She brought a tremendous amount of personal energy, but also showing me, I saw it, and I know other members in the group saw it, how she was applying these principles, right immediately, and integrating them into the work that she was doing, into her relationships. And that was exciting to see.
Beautiful. I love this. I feel like we could probably go on forever. And it's time to graduate you. So what I'd like for you to do is, I would like for you all to, and if you want to, you can turn off the camera or not, it's up to you, but I want you to close your eyes. And one of the reasons I'm going to ask you that you close your eyes is because when we have our eyes closed, we don't have distractions and we can hear acknowledgements better. And I'm going to mute people that might not be muted right now. Because distractions usually shields our heart. So I would like to acknowledge you. I would like to acknowledge each and every one of you for your commitment. I want to acknowledge you for your participation and contribution. I especially want to acknowledge you for your vulnerability, being willing to share honestly and from your heart. I want to acknowledge you for your love and your willingness and openness. Because without that, it wouldn't be what it is today. I want to acknowledge you for your courage, and especially for those that have not done work with me or gratitude before. I want to acknowledge you for your brilliance and for being the change. And I want to do a special acknowledgement for those of you, and you know who you are, that have either been on every call, watched every session, gone all out 100% on your homeworks, and really giving it your all. And even for those that have been giving it your all, even though you may have missed some. You are exactly where you're supposed to be. And I want to welcome you to Source Movement. Keep your eyes closed. So you have now officially graduated from this course, and you have earned the title Creative Peacemaker. I don't take this title lightly. It's what I have on my business card, and it's what I live by every day. And I invite you to live as the change and to inspire others to awaken and promote peace. You are now a creative peacemaker, whether you like it or not. So just think about what that means to you as you go about life after this course. Think about how you act, how you think, how you be, how you engage, love, and lead as a creative peacemaker. And imagine what's possible when you come from love and the butterfly effect that it has on everyone that you come in contact with. And I want you to think about when you put your head on the pillow at night and you think back on your day. Are you grateful for the impact you had? Or was it just another busy, mediocre day? I invite you to take yourself on daily. And I want you to make it a point to inspire others to become their most effective selves. I want you to consider and believe that if you be the change, you will see the change. That if you show up as a 10 in your relationships, you will have 10 relationships. That when you sow love, peace happens. And I want you to wake up every day knowing that you're important, that you matter, and that you are a unique contribution in your own way, and that without you, it wouldn't be the same. But more than anything, I want you to know that you're deeply loved, and that as a creative peacemaker, joy is your new superpower. And you guys can open your eyes. And I'm going to show you a quick video, because when you live life as a creative peacemaker, you actually become a legend. And, you know, sometimes we think legends have to be the big ones like Martin Luther King or John Lennon or Mother Teresa, but I look at legends as anyone whose memory lives on. And so I think specifically about my grandmother, who was a pure context of love. And I think about her often, still to this day. And so I want you to think about how your legend and how your legacy will live on. So let me share the screen here. And there'll be words to the song on the video, and it's just, I want you to just take it in and listen and reflect. Never lose hope when everything's cold and fighting. These people, their bones know how to choose smoke where the fire is. Don't pick yourself up. Legends never die. 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 They're written down in eternity. But you'll never see the price it costs. Scars collected all of their lives. When everything's lost, they pick up their hearts and abandons their faith. Before it all starts, they suffer through harms to touch your tree. Whoa, pick yourself up, guys. Legends never die. 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 Oh, when the world is calling out your name, begging you to fight. Oh, pick yourself up once more. Pick yourself up, guys. Legends never die. 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 So, congratulations, everyone. Oh, hold on. Excuse me. Oh, no, it's not. I just got to turn off. I have something else going on here for. Like a verbo. Hi, I'm here. There. Sorry. I still had something going into my headphones. So congratulations, everyone. Let's give yourself a pat on your back. you did it. I just want to quickly share something funny about that song. I played it at when I did the Source Movement course live and in person. At the very end, I played that song, and we had the lights down in the training room, and then I was over by the light switches, and right as the song and the video stopped playing, I was going to turn on the lights, and I turn on the light and I get electrocuted, like so bad that like my whole hand is black, and it just went boom, and the whole building went black. And it was like the last word that was like, legends never die. And I'm like, so I always remember that. I was fine. Thank God. I was wearing rubber shoes and it was all okay. But it's just funny. So anyway, let's not get electrocuted. So what's next? What I'm creating right now is I'm creating a curriculum called Catalyst for Change that sort of comes out of Source Movement. There's two sort of roads that you can take after this. And it kind of depends on where you're at in your life and what you want to see is next for you. So one path is Catalyst for Change, which is it's going to be an on self-study hybrid, which means you are doing a lot of the work and the lessons and declarations and having things in your life happen on a self-study basis and self-timed. But there's a call every week that you can get on with everybody else that's in the same course and me. So you still get an hour call every week with me, but we, instead of, me sitting and teaching you, it's more like leaders coming together and sharing and contributing and really figuring out how we can make the world a better place and how you can contribute to that world, and whether it's your world and your family or your world at large. That course is not complete yet and it's not available yet, but it will be, and I will send you an email as soon as we're ready to launch it for you to have an opportunity to enroll in that. The other thing that we're creating is something called Leaders for Peace. And that's simply a subscription-based social media group. It's not on Facebook. It's actually in our course study program. It's a social media group where it's $9.95 a month, and now we're participating together in the conversation. And when you subscribe to that, you also get a weekly call that's separate from the other one. Same thing, talking about current events, applying the tools, and really continuing to talk about how we can create this movement that I'm committed to creating, which I call Source Movement, but really about becoming that change and not stopping now, not just going, oh, I learned something. And yes, maybe you are going out and doing it in your world, but imagine the power having a group of people that are up to the same stuff. And again, that's something that's literally in the incubator creation phase right now. And I will send you that information as that becomes available. We're talking within the next month. And I also want you to know, if you want other people in your life to do Source Movement, it's going to be facilitated a little differently. It's going to be more self-study, but with me on the call every week. But the calls are more like our bonus calls. So some of the lectures are going to be video instead. Like I'll record myself talking about these distinctions and whatever. And so they get that, but then they get more of the discussion instead. And I think that I learned that by seeing how powerful these bonus calls were. And I realized there's some of the stuff that we do on these calls that can actually be just watched. So the Source Movement course, the full one online, is available on, let's see, October 12th. So we're in the final stages of creating that right now. And I don't know if, Irina, you have your hand up from before, or if it's a new hand up.
Yes, it's recent, and I just want to also acknowledge everybody, and I'm very happy and proud to be part of this group, and thank you so much for joining. And then I'm wondering if it is possible to create further like WhatsApp group chat with everybody who is willing, so we can keep in contact.
Yeah, feel free to do that, like connect on the Facebook page and connect with everyone, because I can't share your information.
Right, are we all part of the Facebook chat, right? I mean, Facebook group right now, everybody?
And if you're not, when I send out the homework today, I'll give you the link again.
Oh, thank you so much. Okay.
Yeah, how about that? All right, so I have another call in 30 seconds. So thank you so much. I did play our song at the beginning, so I won't play it today, which is the Melissa Etheridge one, but feel free to go to YouTube and listen to it yourself. Thank you so much, everyone. I appreciate you so much.
Blessings, thank you. Woo!
Yay, you guys are
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you all. Thank you, Joe.
All right,
Thank you, all of you. I don't know how to sign off.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you.
Thank you.